Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya
Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giri Vardadari Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giri Vardadari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giri Vardadari Jaya Gopi Chanavallabha Jaya Giri Vardadari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Hare Krishna. So, welcome you all to our Sunday virtual feast or Sunday program. Once again, we are very happy to have His Grace Jai Govinda Prabhu with us tonight. Prabhu has been with us twice or thrice, and last time he spoke, he gave a presentation on Sri Vrindavan Yatra, and many of us liked that presentation. So I requested Prabhuji if he can do the sequel of the same, theme and give us a glimpse of Mayapur Yatra. So maybe there will be some slide also from Jagannath Puri if we get time, but at least we'll try to cover as much as we can from Mayapur Yatra. As you all know, Prabhu lives in Vancouver, and he is disciple of Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, very senior, devotee in our society. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for coming and giving us your association. Thank you, Hare Krishna. We are excited to hear and see the slides. We feel like that we are in Mayapur, beautiful temple right in front. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Back to you.
I'm still setting up here.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you
Prabhu.
very much, Brahmacharya Prabhu. It's so nice to be back here again in beautiful St. Louis and all the wonderful devotees here. So this is part 2 of a pilgrimage to spiritual India. This is based on trips I've taken to India personally, different photographs I've taken and different places and so on and so forth. So, and the reason I put the purpose behind this presentation is a few reasons. The main one is for my own personal purification. And by going over the different pastimes and the different places, it's actually very purifying. Plus, I also put it together to try to bring a greater faith in the reality of spiritual life. Because if you go to these actual places where these pastimes took place, it actually increases your faith. And even if you just visit them virtually, and also to encourage devotees to go on pilgrimage, which will help to maintain and increase their enthusiasm for spiritual life. It's very important to go to these places of pilgrimage. Of course, with the present pandemic, it's not so easy. And I suspect that after all the restrictions have been lifted globally, there's going to be a huge surge of people going on pilgrimage. And I encourage people to do that, devotees to go on pilgrimage. So this is part 2, my personal pilgrimage to spiritual India. And on this trip, we're going to start from Delhi. We're going to leave Delhi and we're going to come to Varanasi. We take the Rajdhani Express. And when we were in Calcutta, when we were in New Delhi, we actually met at Connaught Place a hawker who was trying to get guides to go to Varanasi. Now, this particular trip, we took the Rajdhani to Varanasi, got off Varanasi in the morning, took a night train, got off in the morning, spent the day in Varanasi, then got on in the evening and went on to Calcutta to go to Mayapur. So while in Delhi, we met somebody who hired a guide for us. We were a little bit apprehensive about it, but it turned out to be okay. So this is our orientation. So this is a main street in Varanasi, also known as Banaras and also known as Kashi. It runs the length of the river. On the other side, just to the right, is actually the river. And there's the river, the Ganges. And the history of Varanasi, it's said to be the oldest, longest inhabited city in the world. I have a question for you. Do you see just the slide, or do you also see a little bit of the other pictures here, like your background, Ramachari, a little bit?
No, we just see the.
Just see the slide.
Yeah,
okay.
the whole slide.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Of course, pictures are of very good quality, so we definitely see the quality as well. But
yeah, most of the photographs are my own. Anyway, so there's also some history to Varanasi, Benares, related to Lord Krishna. There was one demon by the name of Pundarik who wanted to imitate Krishna, and he showed up in Dwarka, Krishna's capital in Dwarka, challenging Krishna. I'm Vasudev, not you. Anyway, I'm not going to get into a long detail of the story, but the pastime. But so what happened was Krishna, they challenged, and Krishna severed his head, and that was the end of Pundarik. There are many imitators of Krishna or God, but they can't hold a fig next to the Supreme Lord. But also accompanied with Pundarik and his armies was the king of Kashi, which is now known as Varanasi and Benares. And the king of Kashi also challenged Krishna, and Krishna severed his head with his Sudarshan chakra. And then Krishna threw his head all the way from Dwarka, all the way to Kashi, Varanasi. And the residents of Varanasi, when they saw the head there, they think, oh, our king, he's so powerful, he must have killed Krishna. And this is Krishna's head. But then they turned it around and they saw, oh my goodness, it's actually our king. So the son of the king, he wanted to revenge his father's death. So he challenged Krishna. He went out and challenged Krishna, and the same thing happened to him. And then Krishna's Sudarshan chakra devastated the whole city. At the time, the city of Kashi was very opulent with palaces and beautiful gardens. It was a very opulent place, but the Sudarshan chakra of Krishna devastated it. And anyway, that was 5,000 years ago, and since then, of course, it's been built up. For Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his pastimes, he had many pastimes here. He defeats all the Mayavadi sannyasis. And later, the head of the Mayavadi sannyasis, I'm not sure how much your audience knows, but I'm doing a very quick, going through these very quickly, and I hope it will be all right, because I'm just giving a little brief idea of how important Kashi is in relation to different acharyas, and in this case, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prakashananda, who was the chief of all the Mayavadis, Varanasi, Benares, at the time, was the seat of the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, headed by Prakashananda Saraswati. Two of Lord Chaitanya's disciples, Chandrasekhar and Kashi Mishra, were staying there, and they were feeling very despondent because they only heard Mayavad philosophy, and they found it very painful. And once you become a devotee and you hear the Vaishnav Siddhanta, whenever you hear the Mayavad philosophy, it's actually very dull, dry, and not so sweet. So they were feeling some dissatisfaction. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and he specifically came to deliver his devotees, to give pleasure to his devotees. And a big debate took place with Lord Chaitanya and the Mayavadis, Pundarik Prakashananda, the head of the Mayavadis, and Lord Chaitanya defeated them, and they all became followers of Lord Chaitanya. And then Lord Chaitanya was holding kirtan, and Prakashananda Saraswati later joined Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was demonstrating ecstatic symptoms, perspiration, water, tears flowing from his eyes like syringes, palpitations of the heart when he was dancing in ecstasy, and all the residents were witness to this ecstatic symptoms of Lord Chaitanya. Also, it was in Varanasi where Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami and his brother Anupama. They met Lord Chaitanya. Anupama was the third brother. There were three brothers: Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Anupama. And Anupama was the father of Jiva Goswami. So Lord Chaitanya, he instructs Rupa Goswami in Varanasi, and then later Sanatana Goswami meets up with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also instructs Sanatana Goswami, the two chief Goswamis of the six Goswamis. Also, Anupama's nephew, Jiva Goswami, the foremost philosopher of all time, went and studied in Varanasi, not under Lord Chaitanya or any of the Vaishnavas at the time, but studied philosophy in Varanasi, and then later met Lord Chaitanya, who had instructed him to go and stay with and go to Vrindavan and meet up with his uncle Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So there's another shot of the river. This part of India, of the Ganges in India, there are 88 bathing ghats, of which there are 8 main ghats. And all along here, there are many, many ghats. Another thing is that this is the #1 place where people go to have their ashes spread in the Ganga for deliverance. And it has this particular place, you can see in the picture. Can you see my pointer when I move it around? I guess not.
Yes, but no, we see it.
Oh, you do? Okay, good. So over here, you might be able to make out, this is wood. This wood is stacks and stacks of wood for funeral pyres. And they have about 100, they burn 100 bodies a day here at this sacred cremation place along the Ganges at this particular. It continuously operates 24 hours a day, every day of the year. Of course, since COVID, it may have even increased, but this is before COVID, 100 cremations every day. So, and this building back here, this is actually a hospice. People would arrange for those who are dying, their last breath would arrange for them to stay here, and they go from the hospice straight to the crematorium, ashes straight into the Ganga. A very special place in that sense. This is in the evening along the Ganges, all the different places, Rishikesh, Haridwar, and of course, Varanasi. People gather by the Ganges in order to participate in the offerings. They would do arti every evening, and all the citizens, this was their entertainment. They'd come there and witness the arti, and you can see all the citizens there, and you saw previously how they were also they were lined up in boats. We were also in a boat looking towards the shore. Anyone that's interested in yoga and that sort of thing, a lot of famous people actually come to Varanasi. And our particular guide, he always told us, he was always telling us, yes, when you ever hear of Goldie Hawn, the famous Hollywood actress? Of course we heard of Goldie Hawn. Yeah, well, and whenever she comes, I'm her guide. And we're figuring, well, he's just saying that. And then he said, yeah, and then she shops at my brother-in-law's cloth shop. And then so sure enough, after the trip, he takes us to his brother's cloth shop. This is what they normally do. So we go and hopefully buy some cloth and such, dhotis and saris. And sure enough, there's a picture of Goldie Hawn with his brother-in-law and his sister's family buying cloth. So I just thought that was a very kind of little bit interesting. Not too far from Varanasi, about 10 kilometers away, is this. It's a stamba in honor of Lord Buddha. So it's a special place also in regard to the Buddhists. This is where Lord Buddha gave his first sermon to 5 disciples. It was the very first sermon after he was so-called enlightened. And this stamba, along with many others, was established or erected by the Emperor Ashoka around 250 BC. There's a picture of Buddha with his 5 principal disciples. Buddha actually appeared in Gaya, the province of Bihar in India. At least that's what we learned from Bhagavatam in the 6th century BC. But if you go to Nepal, a place called Lumbini, the actual palace where Siddhartha Buddha appeared. So there's a big contention. And the way we address this contention is, yes, Lord Buddha physically appeared in Lumbini, but he was enlightened and he had his real birth, his spiritual birth, in Gaya, in the province of Bihar. There's a big statue of Lord Buddha. This is one of the principal temples. So after we visited there, we went back to the train station in Varanasi. This is a typical scene of a train station. Got on the train and went from Varanasi to Calcutta. There's a group of devotees on one of our trips that we took. The way to go is travel AC2. I always recommend AC2 if you're going with a group. It's economically reasonable and not overly crowded, and you get to sleep with clean sheeting, and also your meals are provided. Very reasonable. AC2. So we arrive in Calcutta. You can see the Howrah Bridge in the background and the Howrah train station from outside. This train station is the largest in India, most active in all of India. India has one of the most active railway systems. It's bigger than Bombay, and over 600 passenger trains a day go through this train station. It's huge. The British called Calcutta the crown jewel of the British Empire. They really like it used to be the capital of India under the British regime. So they built what is called the Victoria Memorial. And this was built around, the British showed up around 1690, the British East India Company. And the original place, there was a bathing ghat by the Ganges. It was called Kalighat. And Kalighat is how the name Calcutta manifested from Kalighat, Calcutta. The British gave the name Calcutta. And they built this memorial to Queen Victoria, the Victoria Memorial. And this was like their challenge to the Taj Mahal. I say, old chap, we can do one better than that Taj Mahal, I think. So they built this beautiful memorial. Another thing that's very special about Calcutta, especially for Gaudiya Vaishnavas in the line of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is that Srila Prabhupada appeared in Calcutta and had a lot of his pastimes in Calcutta. I highly recommend reading the first volume of the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, which captures Srila Prabhupada's life in Calcutta. His birth appeared in 1496. And right across the street was a Govinda temple, where as a little boy, his parents would take him and his neighborhood friend in an old style stroller and take them into the courtyard, and they would take darshan of Govinda right from his very beginning. And later he attended a place called Scottish Churches College. This place still exists. You can actually go and visit these places. The tree that he took birth under, what kind of tree? Anyway, it's still there. I don't have a picture of it, but it's also still there. The place where he appeared is still there. This is the college that he attended, British Scottish Churches, and he also later, after he was educated, his first job was working as a manager in Bosch's laboratory, and this is the building where Bosch's laboratory was. How much of the building and which particular door, I'm not sure, but you notice that it's black and white and colored simultaneously, just to show the how it looked previously in black and white before they had color. So from Calcutta, now we're going to Sridham Mayapur. Mayapur is a very, very special place. Lord Shiva actually tells us how, speaking about the glories of Navadvip, which is comprised of 9 islands, and how and why it was created. And we know that when Krishna comes to this material abode, material world, he brings his whole spiritual world with him. But Navadvip is directly created by Srimati Radharani. And the reason that Radharani created Navadvip, 9 islands, where Sridham Mayapur is, was because Krishna was playing. Radharani heard that Krishna was with another gopi by the name of Viraj in the forest of Vrindavan, and so she went to try to catch Krishna in the act. But they saw her coming and they hid, and this happened twice. And then she decided, well, the only way I can defeat this is if I make something so attractive that Krishna won't want to leave. So then she created Navadvip between the 2 rivers, the Ganges and the Jamuna. She created a beautiful place filled with pleasant forest animals, beautiful flowers, fruit-laden trees, bushes everywhere, lakes with wonderful birds, chirping birds and water birds. And both the Jamuna and the Ganges encircled the islands, acting as a moat to protect it. And Krishna said, and then Radharani, she also plays the flute. She attracted Krishna by playing her flute. And then Krishna said, I will always remain here and never leave this place. He was so attracted. So we decided to go from Calcutta this time to take a local train. And here's a local train from Calcutta to Navadvip, the town of Navadvip, which is on one of the islands. some pictures. And then from the train, you get off the train and you get onto a boat, and then you take a boat. The Ganges basin is here. All the so many rivers and streams in this part. Bengal is very lush. A lot of rain. In fact, it floods a lot during the rainy season. So there's a lot of boats going across the river as opposed to bridges. And you take a boat, you go across the bridge, come across, here's the landing. And then from there, you take a rickshaw. Of course, we have a specific destination that we want to go to, and that's to our ISKCON Radha Chandodia Mandir in Shridham Mayapur, ISKCON Center in Mayapur, which is the home of Shri Shri Radha Madhava and the principal 8 Sakis. Also the home of the famous Lordnas Sinhadeva and the Pushpa Samadhi of Srila Prabhupada. Now, Shridham Mayapur has developed considerably from the very beginning. The very first building in Mayapur was known as the Long Building at the time, 1976 is pictures from. This is the longest building in Mayapur. And look around, you can see this the only building as far as you could see in any direction. But it's also famous now for the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium. It's a huge compound with residences and hotels, apartment blocks for families, grihastas, hotels, goshala, place for protecting cows. I'm not sure. Maybe one of you may know how many acres it is, but they keep getting more and more land. And just recently, they recently 2010 they started to build the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium. A lot of evening activities, devotional activities naturally go on there. They have their elephants and they go on procession every evening in Shridham Mayapur at the ISKCON Temple. They take the deities on the elephant and walk around the property. It's quite a sight to see, actually. And of course, we know Shridham Mayapur was also made famous by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Known as the Chana avatar, hidden, because he's not coming as God, but he's coming as God's devotee, even though he's Krishna himself. And he appeared in Navadvip, particularly in Mayapur. And Navadvip is shaped like a lotus, and there are 9 islands. And each one of the 9 islands represents one of the 9 processes of devotion, of devotional service. I don't know them right off the top of my head, but Shravanam, one island represents hearing, another chanting, another remembering, another offering prayers, doing service, another, and ultimately Atma Nivedanam. And where our ISKCON Mayapur Center is, it's on the 9th, Atma Nivedanam. So Jiva Goswami, later, he comes to Shridham Mayapur and meets Nityananda, and Nityananda takes him on a tour. And while on the tour, Nityananda starts taking him to different places. And here's the place, this is the house where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And this is the place where the nocturnal kirtan started at Srivasa's house, Sri Sangam. Now, those places are still present in Mayapur, although the buildings are different. But the places are the same. And then Lord Nityananda says, after Lord Chaitanya disappears, by his desire, the Ganges will swell and cover Mayapur for 100 years. And then the water will again recede. For some time only, the place will remain devoid of houses. Then again, by the Lord's desire, this place will become prominent and people will live in Mayapur as before. All these ghats on the banks of the Ganges will again be manifest, and the devotees will build temples of the Lord. And one exceedingly wonderful temple will appear, from which Gauranga's eternal service will be preached everywhere. So this is quoted from the Navadvip Mahatmya, Sri Navadvip Mahatmya, the Shastra, and it's a prophecy that's made by Lord Nityananda. And we understand that if you see the size of this exceedingly wonderful temple of the Vedic Planetarium, and this is a fairly recent picture, and you compare it to the size of the Samadhi, which you could see the Samadhi for the longest, for many, many kilometers, if you're on the river or anywhere, because Bengal is relatively flat. So before the TOVP appeared, the Samadhi was like an amazing building. Here's a view just of the Samadhi from the river. You can see one of the back buildings of the Mayapur property. Fishing is very popular in Bengal. It's one of the staples. Of course, devotees, we don't eat fish, meat, fish, or eggs. Sometimes people try to cut corners and they say fish are water vegetables. That's not actually the case. Srila Prabhupada did say that the Japanese are very intelligent. And he also said that so are the Bengalis, because they eat a lot of fish. And I think maybe it's phosphorus or something in fish that gives good brain tissue. But then so does milk. In fact, it's described one should drink equivalent of 2 pounds of milk a day, because milk creates very fine brain tissue for understanding philosophical subject matter. This is one boat that we took a tour on after we got off the boat, just as the sun set. And here's some, again, more activities on the Ganga. And this is the type of boats that the local fishermen use. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the pioneer for Krishna consciousness in the Western world, very, very prominent in revitalizing Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, especially from Lord Chaitanya, because before the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, from the time of Lord Chaitanya until Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance, Vaishnavism had actually gained a very bad reputation. It had lost, it basically had become covered over, and charlatan so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda engaged in all kinds of despicable activities in the name of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, until Bhaktivinoda Thakur came and reestablished it in its proper order, in its proper sampradaya. Even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Lila, about the 5th, 6th chapter, it talks about the different sampradayas and different asampradayas, the ones that have become disconnected from Lord Nityananda. Just as a branch, if a tree is connected to the branch, then the nice fruits and leaves coming from the branch are well nourished. But if they break or they become disconnected from the tree, they shrivel up and perish, and they don't have give any fruit. So in the same way, the disciplic lines, some of the disciplic lines claiming to come from Lord Nityananda were not actually following, and so they're compared to branches that became separated from the tree. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur reestablished Krishna consciousness in the modern age. Very, very prominent personality in our lineage. He was a magistrate under the British rule, highly respected both by the British and by his locals. It was also Bhaktivinoda Thakur who rediscovered the birth site of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this is his residence as it was when he was here. It's called the Bhakti Bhavan, I believe, the house where he resided, and it's a place on the other side of the Jalangi River across from our Sri Mayapur. This is looking from the balcony. Now, right now, looking from the balcony, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's balcony. There's a big banyan tree there, so you can't see very much. But when Bhaktivinoda Thakur came out on his balcony, he had a vision, and one of the visions he had was he saw an international city, a city of international Vaishnavas from all places in the world. He actually had that vision, and he was actually seeing the ISKCON's property in Sridham Mayapur. And he also had a vision of the temple, of the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To this day, some of the locals in the city of Navadvip, which is across the Ganga, in a different place altogether, They claim that this isn't the actual birth site, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he used ancient maps, he used Shastra, and of course, Chaitya Guru realization to actually establish the yoga pit. And when he was looking out across the Jalangi, he saw this white light emanating from that spot going up in the sky. So, along with Juggernaut Das Babaji, who was very revered by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was 100 and perhaps 130, maybe even as old as 140 years old, very, very elderly. Bhaktivinoda Thakur asked him to come and help to confer that actually was the actual birth site of Lord Chaitanya. And now, being very elderly, Juggernaut Das Babaji was not able to even walk, and he was bent over and being carried by his servant in a basket. And when they came to the actual spot, Juggernaut Das Babaji jumped out of the basket, which was being carried on the head of his servant, landed on the ground and started dancing in ecstasy, also indicating the actual birth site of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the entrance. It's the entrance of the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya appeared under a neem tree. That's why he was called Nimai. And here's our little group again on one of our trips. And this is the same neem tree. At least it's the same place, and you could say an ancestor of the original neem tree 500 years ago, because we know Mayapur was covered with water. It flooded, which was another reason that to ascertain the actual birth site of Lord Chaitanya would have been difficult, because the rivers always changed. Oh yeah, so here's a bas relief of Juggernaut Das Babaji being carried by his servant. We know that Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement in Navadvip, and the Chandkazi tried to stop it. And even though he tried to stop it, Lord Chaitanya started the first non-cooperative movement, non-cooperation, non-violent movement, and convinced the Chandkazi that the Sankirtan movement should continue. A nice debate took place. The Chandkazi agreed, and the Sankirtan movement was allowed. And the Chandkazi said, "I will, from this day forward, I will always allow the Sankirtan movement." And since that time, 500 years ago, the Sankirtan movement and the local Muslims, the Chandkazi is the title for Muslim rulers, because at that time, during the time of Lord Chaitanya, it was predominantly ruled by Muslims. So the Sankirtan movement was allowed to take place, and this is the samadhi of the Chandkazi, and devotees, Vaishnavas, go there it's considered a place of pilgrimage because of the relationship with the Chandkazi and Lord Chaitanya. When they grew up in the same village, Lord Chaitanya and the Chandkazi were in the same village. Chandkazi was older, and he said, "You're like my nephew." Lord Chaitanya said, "You're like my uncle." And we learned later from the Agora Godanesh Dipika, which is the who's who in Lord Chaitanya Leela, who they are in Krishna Leela. And we learned that the Chandkazi was actually Kamsa. And Krishna killed Kamsa. But the Chandkazi, Krishna gave, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, gave the Chandkazi Krishna Prema, which is better than, even though Krishna killed Kamsa, and Kamsa got liberation, impersonal liberation. Later, he came back as the Chandkazi, and he attained Krishna Prema by Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya is more merciful than even Lord Chaitanya. Namo Mahavadanaya, because he gives Krishna Prema Hridayate. So that's the samadhi of the Chandkazi. This is Surabi Kunj. After Lord Indra's pride was curbed by Krishna's lifting of Govardhan Hill, he was worried about committing more offenses, so he asked Surabi, what he should do. And Surabi said, we should go to Navadvip and worship Nimai, Lord Chaitanya. Now, this is, 4,500 years later. So this took place 4,500 years before Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Lord Indra and Surabi had this discussion. So Lord Chaitanya, he gave Lord Indra his darshan. So we know Lord Chaitanya from, again, from the Navadvip Mahatmya, Lord Chaitanya had appeared 5,000 years ago. He appeared to Nimbark, to Vishnu Swami, to many, to Lord Ramachandra even, to Lord Shiva. He had appeared previously and said, all these things will be revealed when I appear. So he also appeared and gave Lord Indra his darshan at that time. And he said, soon I'll appear in Navadvip and you will serve me there. Lord Gauranga and Lord Indra then left, but Surabi remained there under a banyan tree, absorbed in Lord Chaitanya. So that's Surabi Kunj, where Surabi stays. Another thing about Sridhar Mayapur is that when there's an inundation of the entire universe, this place is one of the places that's not become inundated. Sounds like a little bit of a conflict because Mayapur did get covered by a flood for 100 years, but this is different compared to the inundation of the entire universe. Another place, Lord Chaitanya would go on parikram, Mayapur parikram, and circumambulate all the 9 islands. And one time he was walking with the devotees. They became very tired, very thirsty. So they stopped in this place. Lord Chaitanya had a mango seed, and he planted the mango seed in the ground, and a beautiful mango tree immediately manifested. This is the potency of the Supreme Lord. And there were beautiful, huge mangoes on this mango tree. And the mangoes were so big that even a big man would quench his thirst completely and hunger just by eating one of them. And one of the very special things about those mangoes is that there was no seed and no skin, which is one of the drawbacks of the mango. This is said to be an ancient pillar, according to Bhakti-Sadanta, from Satya Yuga and King Sena. A little ways down from Navadvip is Shantipur. And we also visited there. It's not too far away. So we visited Shantipur. This is the place where Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. No, excuse me, Advaitacharya, not Sarvabhauma. Advaitacharya. He resided here. This is the place Lord Chaitanya had his first alms in the form of prasadam after he had taken sannyas. And also in this particular room, in this spot, Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, and Advaitacharya, you see the picture there, they would gather here and they would have different talks, and particularly about how the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya would spread all over the world. This road is called Bhakti-Sadanta Road. It runs pretty much beside the Ganga. So now it's time to leave. So we'll backtrack, get on to the boat, cross the river, and go to Calcutta. We're back in the Howrah train station, and then we'll take an overnight train to Mayapur. To Puri. From Mayapur, we'll go to Juggernaut Puri. Overnight train again. Here we have the AC2. We have 4 bunks, 2 upper and 2 lower, and it's very nice. If you're going with a group, it's very, very pleasant. Each compartment is semi-private. AC1 is a little more expensive, a little bit different, but not much. That's why I recommend AC2. You get off the train. This is a train station in Juggernaut Puri. You take an overnight. You get on in the evening. You sleep in the evening. You wake up in the morning, and then you hit the beach. Beautiful beaches in Jagannath Puri. Unfortunately, it's becoming a tourist place for people to come from Europe and especially from other parts of Asia, like Japan and China, who come here for the nice beaches. Jagannath Puri is shaped like a conch shell. Now we know Navadvip was shaped like a lotus, and Jagannath Puri is shaped like a conch shell. And in the center of the conch shell, the world is the abode of Lord Jagannath. There are different places, including Konark and Bhubaneswar and Jagannath Puri. And it's said after Lord Vishnu defeated Vraha, feeling very tired, he came and lied down, and where he lied down, there's different weapons were placed. So the conch shell was placed where Puri is, and Konark is where one of the other weapons, and Bhubaneswar, which is the capital of the province of Orissa, of which Jagannath Puri is in. And that's how those places were initially established. So here's a photograph of Juggernaut Temple, another of the famous Juggernaut Temple. When devotees go there, and they want to go and have darshan of the namesake of the city, Jagannath Puri. It was originally called Purushottam, which means the place of the Lord. So, and this is the ancient temple. Srila Prabhupada says not less than 2,000 years ago. And according to the Skanda Purana, it was established by King Indrjuna millions of years ago in Satyuga, in a different Satyuga, actually billions of years ago, almost 1.8 billion years ago. There's evidence that's how old, at least the location of the temple was on Nilachala, the hill of Nilachala. So that's the Juggernaut Temple. Here's an old photograph from one of the British photographers, Henry Cornish, from 1892. You'll see there's not much difference in the temple. Of course, it's a different angle, but it's not much difference except it's been painted more recently. At the entrance of the temple, there is a beautiful smiling Juggernaut. Now, one of the problems is that for Westerners and those who may not be Hindus coming from India even, may not be able to gain access to come and actually have darshan of Lord Jagannath. But they can have darshan of this Juggernaut called Palti Atita Pavana Juggernaut. And the story of this Juggernaut, here's another picture. The story of this Juggernaut was that there was one Muslim general, I don't remember the actual name, he came to invade Jagannath Puri and desecrate the temples. This is a lot of things that unfortunately the Hindus and the Muslims, with their contentions with each other, the Muslims would break the temples of the Hindus, and where they would establish a mosque. At some point, sometimes the Hindus would come and destroy the mosque. And anyway, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, these are all bodily, material designations. Gold is gold. In other words, God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, it's not Hindu, it's not Muslim, it's not Christian, just as gold is not Hindu gold, Muslim gold, English gold. Gold is gold. So similarly, true Siddhanta is not sectarian. It's not designated as a particular type of faith. Anyway, so the Muslim ruler, the Muslim general, had a daughter, and somehow or other, the head priest of the Juggernaut Temple, the daughter became infatuated with him and wanted to marry him. So the powerful general pretty much forced the pujari, the head priest, to marry his daughter. And although he was a little bit reluctant, but in order to save the temple and to save the deity from getting destroyed, he agreed. That was a condition. And so they were married. And then after they were married, the head priest now went to go back into the Juggernaut Temple, and he was barred from entering. He said, no, only pure Hindus can go into the Muslim, and because you married into the temple, because you married a Muslim, you're no longer qualified to go in. So he was banned. But then they established this Patita Pavana for him specifically, so he could have darshan. So we can all have darshan. Of course, anyone that's not allowed to go into the temple, you can always, if you see on the right, the temple over here, you can always see the chakra. We can take darshan of the chakra. And we're in excellent company because we have Sanatan Rupa Goswamis. They never went into the Juggernaut Temple. They would take darshan of the chakra. What better company than that? And what to speak of Haridas Thakur, who would not allowed entrance and would take darshan of the chakra. So we're in good company. We should never be offended or upset that we can't take darshan if we're not if we're barred from going into the temple. And of course, Juggernaut Puri is famous for the Juggernaut Rathyatra. It takes place in the month of June by our calculation, approximately. In fact, I think they just had it. And here is the Rathyatra and the Juggernaut Temple. This was a drawing by James Ferguson, 1845, who was a British illustrator. Wherever the British were, they would take their illustrators and they would send back reports of all the British Empire colonies that they that were under their jurisdiction, the African colonies, the Indian colonies, and Hong Kong, and so on and so forth. This is a Grand Road. This is a picture that's taken from on top of the library. You get a very good view of the Grand Road from on top of the library. And to the left of this, over on this side, you can't see it, is where the Juggernaut Temple is. This building here, right here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur lived here. And this is where Srila Bhakti-Sadanta appeared. So he appeared in Juggernaut Puri. It's a very special place also. And at the end of Grand Road is a place called Gundicha. This is a Gundicha temple. Again, you're restricted to visit there. Now, not too far from the Gundicha temple, we know that Lord Chaitanya would regularly have the pastime of cleaning the the Gundicha temple before the Rathyatra. So, because Lord Jagannath would come from the Juggernaut Temple to the Gundicha temple along Grand Road. So before Lord Jagannath would arrive, during the time of Lord Chaitanya, he would organize all his men and have a big cleaning of the Juggernaut Temple. And they would get water from this place right here, which is called Indra Tank or Indra Sarovar. Indirjuna Sarovar. This lake was created when there were thousands and thousands of cows in this one spot, and the weight of the cows with their hoof prints, they made an indentation, and that's where this Indrijumna lake came from. So they would get water from two places, from this lake and a parshara, and a well. I can't remember the name of the disciple of Ishvara Puri, who's the well is named on. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, from this lake, primarily from this lake, they would take buckets of water and they would clean the Juggernaut Temple. And then oftentimes the devotees would bathe in this place. So it's a very special place to also have water, take a little water on your head. Going up the stairs, you'll see the beautiful architecture and colors in Juggernaut Puri. And one of the unique things is that the lions, they all have mustaches, which is kind of unique. It's very, very interesting. So this picture, we have some lions and we have some monkeys, local monkeys and some lions in front of this. This is the entrance to, I believe, temple of Indrijuna. There's actually a temple and a deity of Indrijuna who established the original Juggernaut Temple. This little temple right on the seashore is said to be where the log floated up. Those of you who know the pastime of how the original Juggernaut appeared, King Indrijumna was informed by Narada Muni that Lord will appear in the form of a log that will float up on the ocean. And this is a special log. No one will be able to lift it, and no one will be able to carve it, except there will be one person who can lift it and another person who can carve it. They're very special. It turned out to be the architect of the demigods, Vishvakarma. So it's said that this place is where the log actually floated up. This is a temple of Lord Shiva, and it's interesting. We're on ground level. There's a wall around it. You see that we're actually on ground level, and this is sunken. So you go down the steps to this temple. Again, here's an elephant gate, and again, even it's a temple of Lord Shiva, but again, it's restricted entrance. I remember unknowingly I went down there to take darshan. I wasn't even sure what kind of temple it was because we could only see what it was from here. So we went down, and immediately we were chastised for coming down because we weren't qualified to come in, which is no big deal. We take darshan of the Lord through prasadam. We take darshan through the Lord through the holy name. Again, just the colors, the textures, the architecture is so beautiful. It's antiquity. Again, here's the temple. This is a close-up of the same entrance. Beautiful banyan trees, the steps going down to the Indrijumna tank. I can't remember which temple this is. I don't have a note for it. So another important place for us is Haridas Thakur. We were talking about Haridas Thakur earlier, and this is the Samadhi, the birthplace of Haridas Thakur. It's a beautiful temple. Inside the temple, this is the actual Samadhi. Haridas Thakur is laid there. It's right on the beach. And those who are familiar with the pastimes of how Haridas Thakur quit his body, he wanted to leave his body. One day, Lord Chaitanya came. Lord Chaitanya's servant came and saw that Haridas Thakur was lying down and not eating. So he reported to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya came to Haridas and asked him, "My dear Haridas, what is your illness?" Haridas said, "My illness is that I can't finish my regular chanting of 300,000 names of Krishna every day." Lord Chaitanya said, "Well, you're older now. I think you can relax the number." And then Haridas, in the course of the conversation, Haridas was saying, "My Lord, I have one request, that when I give up my body, which is soon, I want to give it up in your presence." And sure enough, Haridas Thakur gave up his body. Lord Chaitanya picked him up and carried him along the beach. And with his own hand, Lord Chaitanya, along with his associates, started to dig the Samadhi, and they placed Haridas Thakur in the Samadhi. And then now, of course, is that beautiful temple where the Samadhi of Lord Chaitanya is. Just behind that temple is the beach. You can see the beach. Another important place in relation to Haridas Thakur is a place called the Siddha Bakul. This is where Haridas Thakur resided. Now, Haridas Thakur would chant, and he wouldn't take any time to build any residence or anything. So one time Lord Chaitanya would visit, actually every day Lord Chaitanya would visit Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur had even though he couldn't go in the temple, he had the darshan of Lord Chaitanya every day, of Krishna every day in the form of Lord Chaitanya, and Juggernaut Prasadam, which is non-different. Krishna Prasadam is Krishna. So he wasn't lacking in anything, but he was sitting outside every day in the hot sun bearing on him. Lord Chaitanya happened to take a toothpick that was on the tray that was offered to Lord Juggernaut. Usually they use neem, but in a hurry, the Pujari didn't have any neem twigs, so he ran outside and got a bakul twig and put it on the plate. So after the offering, Lord Chaitanya brought some prasadam to Haridas Thakur, and the neem and the bakul twig was there, and Lord Chaitanya put it in the ground, and just as when he put the mango seed in the ground, a tree immediately grew in Navadvip, Mayapur. In the same way, a beautiful bakul tree grew in order to give shade to Haridas Thakur. This is one of the reasons that trees are very valuable, is because they can give shade, they can give fruit, they're very, very valuable. We don't want to unnecessarily cut down trees. So many years later, when it came time to build the Rathyatra cart, people came to build the Rathyatra cart, and they were going to build. They build a new cart every year, and they cut down trees. So they marked this tree, this bakul tree, to be cut down, and the devotees protested. They said, "This is very special. This was planted by Lord Chaitanya to cover Haridas Thakur. You can't cut this down." But they were pretty determined. So they marked the tree. Then when they came to cut down the tree the next day or a few days later, the tree was completely hollow inside. Like it was rotted away, and the tree was useless for their purposes, so it was spared. And to this day, this tree is hollow inside, yet look at how lush it is. That's why it's called Siddha. Siddha means perfection, or it's like a miracle. This is the entrance to the Radhakant Temple, or the house of Kashi Mishra, where Lord Chaitanya resided. And here's another view of the Juggernaut Temple. This is sometimes known as the Gambira. I don't have a lot of pictures of that. And this is the, again, Juggernaut Temple from a side view for perspective. You get a little more perspective when you see it from a side view. This is a magnificent temple. Not far from the Gundicha Temple and Indrjuna Lake is this temple of Lord Sinhadeva. And this is a very ancient deity of Lord Sinhadeva. This is when Indrjuna was going to build, before he built the Juggernaut Temple, he held fire sacrifices. And from one of the fire sacrifices, Lord Nrsingadev manifested. Now, I don't know if many of you have seen the picture of the recent cremation of our Pankajangri Prabhu, who was dedicated disciple of Lord Nrsingadev, dedicated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, had his twin brother Janani Vas, moved to Mayapur, Nashtika Brahmachari, and took care of Lord Nrsingadev. When they had his body, they were burning his body. In the funeral part, you could clearly see the image of Nrsingadev in the fire. So it's not so far-fetched to think that Lord Nrsingadev manifested from one of the sacrificial fires, and they housed him in this particular temple. He's known as, there's two Nrsingadevs, one in front of the other. One is Ugra Nrsinga and one is Shanta Nrsinga. And again, General Kalapahad, or Kalapahar, he came there to desecrate the temple. Now, it said anybody that sees the Nrsinga, Shanta Nrsinga, which is in front, all his frustration immediately goes away. So when he went in to basically break the deity and knock down the temple, when he had darshan of this Shanta Nrsinga, his heart transformed, and he left the deity in the temple. This is the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a disciple of Lord Chaitanya. He was a custodian of the Juggernaut Temple, highly respected, had hundreds of disciples, maybe thousands, highly respected. This is inside his house. This is probably the room where, after Lord Chaitanya first came to Jagannath Puri, he fainted, and he came to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When Lord Chaitanya went in front of the deity. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought him to his house. You can see in the background a little bit from Sarvabhauma's, from this room, the tower of the Juggernaut Temple. This is part of the complex of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. It was an important person. It was a big place, but unfortunately it's in ruin. But this room especially is very important because when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Lord Chaitanya, they had the debate for 7 days. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was an impersonalist, but after meeting with Lord Chaitanya converted him or gave him his mercy, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became a great Vaishnava. After Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya realized that Lord Chaitanya is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then Lord Chaitanya manifested his six-armed form, Sadbhuj form, 2 arms, green, holding an arrow and a bow, representing Lord Chaitanya, 2 that are blue, holding a flute, representing Lord Chaitanya, and 2 golden, representing the sannyasi Lord Chaitanya. That's a form that Lord Chaitanya manifested a few times, and in this particular case, to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Again, inside the room, a little cubbyhole, sacred objects are kept there, nice colors, nice textures. Another very important place is the Tota Gopinath Temple in Puri. This is the Tota Gopinath Temple. And this is the deity of Tota Gopinath. One day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Gadadhar of Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, one of the Panchatattva, he said, you dig here. And so he dug, and the beautiful deity, 7-foot tall deity of Gopinath was uncovered. So Gadadhar worshipped him. Tota means garden. That's why it's called Tota Gopinath. He came from the garden. He worshipped him for many, many years. When he became elderly, he prayed and told the deity, I have many disciples. I want my disciples now to take care of you. In a dream, Gopinath came to him and said, no, I still want you to serve me. And there was a debate. Gadadhar said, I'm so old now. Just to put a garland on you is so difficult because you're so tall, and what to speak of dress you. It's not practical. And Gopinath insisted. So the next morning after the dream, often a deity will come to us. Actually, if we dream of the spiritual master or Krishna or one of his incarnations, Lord Chaitanya, this is not ordinary dream. This is actually spiritual revelation. And anyway, so Sarvabhauma, Tota Gopinath came to him in a dream and told him, no, I want you to continue. So the next morning when Gadadhar went down, opened the curtain to the altar, Tota Gopinath was sitting down. This is the only deity that's sitting down. There's some also mention of this about Lord Brahma worshipping the Tota Gopinath deity previously when it was standing, and he's standing on a lotus flower. So it's very unusual. But the deity sat down so that Gadadhar would be able to continue serving him. In 2005, these are a little older pictures, we went on the Sri Kshetra Parikram. It was first established in that year, 2005, by Bhakti Purushottam Swami, and we circumambulated all of Jagannath Puri. It's called Sri Kshetra Parikram, and you go all around. You see some very interesting sights. Here's 2 logs together as a bridge walking across water. Here's an ancient way they would use to irrigate water. You can see it was a split bamboo with on a fulcrum, and the person would fill the bamboo and put it, the other end would go into the crops. And you'd walk along the beach and all different parts of Jagannath Puri. I'm not sure what that says, it's in Bengali, but the Bengali devotee asked my wife and I to hold this up and have his picture taken, so I got a copy of the picture. We were walking in the water, that's why our dhotis are hiked up. Beautiful beach there. So we also took we're almost at the end, Ramachandra Prabhu. This is a good place to finish, or I got another few slides for Konark and Bhubaneswar, but we can finish here if you like, because we are at 5 o'clock. It's a good place to finish.
Yes, Prabhu, it's so exciting. If needed, we can talk and have another class, but I will give some time for devotees to ask questions if they have anything that they would like to ask. It's
Okay.
such an exciting presentation. The whole concept of coming up with presentation like that is awesome. I mean, as I'm watching these presentations, I'm realizing that this is really giving a virtual tour, making, everybody basically go through all the holy places, in Mayapur and Jagannath Dham. So as such, it's a really excellent idea to have something like that, Prabhu. So really want to thank you. And it seems like a very innovative idea to have presentation on such topics. Definitely, it's very enlivening and giving a lot of information at the same time. So dear devotees, I know we have one Gujarat devotee from Odisha. I'm not sure if he's here. If he's here, then he can read the. Yeah, Bhupal, Prabhu, can you read what is written there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, can you read? Yeah, Prabhu, go back to that display that you had. We have a devotee from Odisha, and he can see what is there on the. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, so this is written in Odia, not Bengali.
Oh.
It just says Sri Kshetra Parikrama 2005. Parichalana means the people who are organize ISKCON, and Sansthapak Acharya Krishna Kripamurti Sri Srimad X.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. That's all it says.
Okay, Sacred Parikram 2005, yes?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Of ISKCON A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Now I know.
Yeah, sorry, he's from Odisha. I misspoke. My mind is not working. Sorry for that. Yeah. So I said Bengali. Sorry for that, Prabhu. Yes,
Yeah.
I knew that.
Arisian is more round in the script. It's rounder, and that's what I noticed. I mean, I can't read either Bengali, Hindi, or Orient, but Orient I know is a little rounder as compared to Bengali and especially Hindi, and what to speak of Sanskrit. Anyway, thank you so much for that.
Hare Krishna. So anybody has anything that they would like to ask, comment, anything? Just some appreciation for Prabhuji. He has been, supporting us and giving us, such a nice, tour. This is second time. Last time we were in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Now we were in Jagannath Pur and Mayapur Dham. So really appreciate that.
Ramacharya Prabhu, I can speak few words.
Yes, please go ahead.
Jai Govind Prabhu, this is Lal Gopal Das. Thank you so much again. I mean, you've been an inspiration for our congregation. You have that majestic way of presenting Krishna consciousness, more authoritative way, with nice stories and lively examples. As nice. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for being us. I don't have any questions. It's at least for me, it's clear what you're saying. And I say thank you, Hare Krishna. Thanks for your continued support.
I have to feel, I was actually feeling a little intimidated with your presence because you're such a scholar.
Oh, no.
Such scholarly classes. So I was feeling a little intimidated, but I really prayed hard to Krishna that I'd be able to speak it in a manner that would be suitable for the audience. And I certainly hope if that's the case, then that's Krishna's mercy, wholly and solely.
Thank you. Hopefully we can, when things get better, things are getting better over here in the US. So, maybe we'll invite you in person. You can come and give some series of, lectures here. We'll schedule something.
I have my number one PowerPoint presentation is Lord Juggernaut Rathyatra. It's in 3 parts, all about the Rathyatra. Somebody said I should make a book but perhaps preceding your Rathyatra or sometime we can come and do that one if you like.
Ramacharya Prabhu arranges Rathyatra every year. It's just been 2 years we couldn't do it, but then I'm sure when we have next time, Ramacharya Prabhu and I will work together so we can have you in advance to create the mood, and then we can have a nice program after that. So
thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Like Ramacharya Prabhu, I was also the primary organizer of our Rathyatra here in Vancouver for more than 2 decades. Although now I've taken a little bit less role, I just focus on the parade and let others do all the other aspects. But
Oh,
I know it's a big yagya to organize Rathyatra. So
Right.
my obeisances to you, Ramacharya Prabhu, and of course, Lal Gopal Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
So I guess we should finish here then.
I sending a thank you note. So we'll just see a minute or two if there is anything anybody has. So any question for Prabhu?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a very beautiful pilgrimage, virtual pilgrimage. You made us do it. We can't do it in person. I don't know if I would be able to ever in my life, but I did it online today. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hari Bol.
I'll keep you informed the next time I go. Maybe you can join us.
Of course. Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Lal Gopal Prabhu, Ramacharya Prabhu, and all the assembled devotees, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the wonderful devotees in St. Louis Yatra. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Dandavat pranam. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you for
Hare Krishna.
your association. Hare Krishna.
What is your name?
Rukmini.
Rukmini. What a perfect, beautiful name. Nice to
Thank
meet you, Rukmini. Oh, you're very, very smart too, and polite.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I will chant the Vaishnava pranams and then we adjourn here. Vanchkalpa taru vaishya kripa sindhu vaishya patidanam pavane vaishnava namah. Assemble Bhakti Vrindi ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Majesty Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Hare Krishna. See you all next Sunday. Hari Bol. Thank you so much. Jai